What's up, amigos? Commander Jaime here today. We're going to cover two things today. So the first thing we're going to cover is a Cardfight Vanguard producer's letter. This is more like a newsletter type of thing. So if you've seen with any different businesses, they do this on a monthly basis. But Cardfight, they're going to do something different. So we've implemented this along with the streams. And then the second thing, they actually have a FAQ, or frequently asked questions, about the premium format that a lot of people have asked these phenomenal questions, like can we use cards like Megiddo and Zoa and cards like in clans like granblue, Great Nature, and all that mixed up. So we have a lot of that, and I just wanted really to take some time just to cover that too. And so we'll start with the producer's letter and kind of go from there. And so as you can see, this is actually from one of the people, the producers themselves, Keita Mori. I think that's how you pronounce his name. And he talks about basically that they're still going to do the weekly announcements. They're going to do their strategy conference as well. And so what's really cool is that they're going to take this time to really explain their thoughts with this letter, and then moving forward too. So it's kind of really cool to hear like their perspective from a person, rather than just like that weekly stream where here's some news, here's some facts, here's some questions. And this takes, I think, some personality or personal view on that as well. And so I'm hoping for that. So during this time with the pandemic, it's more essential now to have some kind of connection as between, Bushiroad as a company, but also us as players too as well. And so I think this is a good opportunity moving forward. So it might address some of those questions that we have moving forward, just like they've done with this letter. And I'll cover that as we get to that part too. They talk about their globally expansion with Vanguard, and they've done so phenomenal with Japan, English, Thai, Italian, and Korea, for example. And so they're growing. So the game isn't dying. I know people have mentioned that, but it's growing. I mean, there's no lie behind that too. And it's really cool just to see that, especially during this whole pandemic. And the same thing with other card games. I know Yu-Gi-Oh was a big one a couple years ago where people thought that the game was dying, but no, it's just still thriving and growing. And so as long as we all like to enjoy the game, then it's going to keep growing. And so the biggest FAQ really is the clan fights during the formats. People are wondering about the three formats. Is it really going to be supported moving forward? It's kind of hard to tell, but they're saying yes. And I think one of the things that may happen is premium will still be supported, and then V premium may be supported for a while but eventually disappear. And then the new standard will be just a new standard, because moving forward the cards that we get will be specifically for standard and then used in premium, but V premium can't use those cards. So V premium is literally stuck in this era, and as long as they make sets specifically to that format, then that format can still live. And so they are still planning that stuff out, and you can read it a little more in detail. And for me, I think one of the biggest questions is premium, and he actually addresses it in here. And what's really cool is they have actually charts and graphs and pictures that help like kind of like break that down in a simplistic way. And here is the overdress premium FAQ. And so if we go to that, and as you can see, we're here at the frequently asked Q&A, and we're talking about the premium format, just like I said, moving forward with our overdress. And so the biggest question is easily like, will the icon cards be used in premium? And the answer is yes. That's really obvious. But the real juicy questions, if I scroll down here, how will Megiddo, Balanarana, Zoa, and Megalonoma be handled now on? Because Zoo Nation and Megalonolica have actually combined to become Stoicheia. And so it's like nothing has really changed. So if you're going into as using your clan as a granblue, Bermuda Triangle, or Aquaforce, you would still be using Megiddo, you would still be using the progenitor dragon for that nation, just as normal. And the same thing with Zoo Nation, you got Zoa and you got Megalonoma for Mega Colony, Great Nature, and Neo Nectar, for example. But here's where it gets a little more spicier. So what happens when you have a D grade 3? And that's like Magnolia, which is included in my granblue deck, right? And so that's where Magnolia also belongs to Zoo. So can I have Zoa technically in my G deck? And so they say flat out, no, you cannot. And so the way that the decks are constructed in the premium format, they're still centered around clans. So if you're playing a clan in that format, you have to pick something. And so in this case, you can pick granblue, and so you are still restricted to the granblue name, right? And so Zoa does not belong to granblue because you have stated that you're playing a granblue deck. So even though you have cards that can play around with the other nations, it is as long as you state that clan that you're playing as your deck, then that's where that fine line happens essentially. I hope that's not really too confusing, but it takes a little soaking in, so I had to read it a couple times just to make sure, and it gets a little more confusing. So we have Neon Gize, or Gize, however you want to say it. So if you have it in your deck, and you have Magnolia as well, and now you have Megiddo and Zoa in your G deck, which you can't because of Gize. So if my Vanguard is Magnolia, can I ultimate stride into Megiddo or Zoa of my choosing? And so the answer is yes, you can. So this is the one instance where you can have both Zoa and Megiddo in your deck and actually be able to ultimate stride into it. And so that is something to think about moving forward. I have no idea how they're going to handle this, because I feel like when something like this with stoicheia is going to happen, I feel like Zoa and Megiddo are going to have a lot more a higher demand than something compared to like Drachma or Ultima, for example, because a lot of those clans really just became together as their own nation already. Stoicheia was the big one that just like, hey, let's put some over here, let's put something over here, and then boom. So that was the big one. And so I think moving forward, that is kind of cool, in my opinion. It really brings some dynamic to where some of the new cards in stoicheia may introduce where you can take advantage of Zoa, and some may take advantage more of Megiddo. And I think that's a cool thing to have an option to. Now, I don't know how that's going to affect the market, if they're going to do more reprints for like the ultimate strides. And I mean, they've done it once before, but still, like, ultimate strides aren't cheap. And so with most decks, especially when you're trying to get started into premium coming from Vieira, you really just need the premium collection strides. You don't need much of the ultimate strides. But still, something like this can actually really give you that extra edge when you go into competitive play. And so if that was me going into a competitive event and really investing my time, energy, and effort into it, I'm definitely going to have the extra card like Zoa or Megiddo that I'm missing for that deck, and just have it accessible if I do end up playing with like the Neon Gize, for example, just to slap it in the deck. So really just a thing to think about moving forward. Now, I'm not sure if they plan to just do reprints, and hopefully that helps with that. I think everybody wants a reprint of the ultimate strides at this point, because like most of them are like very high price for like almost to what is the word? It's little to almost no use. You know, for example, Night Rose doesn't even fall back onto the Megiddo 4 Skull Dragon attack as much as we used to. We just use Bad Bounty and just go GG with that, you know. So, and if you want to take a look too, they actually break it down here, where they have like the clans breaking down. There's the nations that they belong to, so it's like not as confusing. United Sanctuary was the prior nation, now it's Catter Sanctuary, for example, and obviously Dragon Empire became Dragon Empire still. So the big one again is granblue Aquaforce combining with Mega Colony, Great Nature, and Neo Nectar into stoicheia. And as you can see, the nations here, and then of course Bermuda Triangle going their own way. So that kind of also goes into that. So that's a little confusing too, but. And they break it down further where you can actually cards that belong in Cater Sanctuary, you can use them in Oracle Think Tank. You can have cards with the D icon and no specified as well. So this kind of preluded to something that I'm not sure if people have caught on, is that do they expect to have cards that aren't nation specific still? So like Prey Elementals, for example. And how are they going to do that too, especially since they're rebooting the whole, not rebooting, I would say they consolidated to 5-6 clans, and really it's like, how can you integrate more genericness to all these, right? It's already generic enough when you have 4 to 5, 6 clans into one nation now, but now you're adding more Prey Elementals, so it could be something good, don't get me wrong. So I'm just curious how they plan it out. And as you can see, it's a long list. It's honestly, there was like 24 clans. So they even included Bag and Dream over here too, and Token Ramble. So they got everything essentially. But yeah, and lastly, just to wrap up, he ends his producer's letter with the greetings, you know, just like give him some feedback, you know, is this something that we want to hear more? And honestly, I think we should. You never know that there's some kind of valuable information or some perspective coming from this producer, so more information is better than nothing, in my opinion. So if you guys can give us some feedback, I'm not sure how he wants that feedback, maybe through Twitter, I guess is what it sounds like. So yeah, and that's it for the video, guys. If you liked it, give it a like down below, comment down below, what are you guys' thoughts? For real, this is something that's brand new and everything, and I'm sure there's a lot of conversations going on, a lot of ideas, a lot of like predictions, speculations. Like, I love to hear that too moving forward. And again, if you'd like to see this, comment, let me know too, so I can keep doing something like this. This is actually pretty cool, and so this is honestly my own effort that I wanted to cover this and share this with you guys too, if you haven't had the chance to, and some of my thoughts on it too. And then of course, share it with your friends and subscribe. See you, amigos. Bye.